it was amazing, but I had to jump through a lot of extra hoops, and the Supreme Court had to issue a separate written decision for whether I could practice the law in the state of Ohio.
Really?
I was about 10, 11 years sober when I went through that process, but a lot of extra hoops to jump through. But
yeah, that's humbling, right? Like not similar story, but I actually just last year, I think it was last year or the year before, I wrote a letter to my judge that sentenced me. Hey everybody, I'm Eric Oberembt, and you're listening to Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. We talk about real shit, what's on our minds, and don't give a fuck if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So sit back, strap in, and get ready for some real shit. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Oberembt, back here at Win the Storm 2024 again. We have got an exciting episode right now. I have no fucking idea where this is going to go, which is why I'm excited about it. Here's what I do know. My guest today, I really fucking like this guy, and I've always wanted to sit down and have a longer conversation with him, get to know him better, and find out how this guy ticks. So I'm going to introduce my guest today, Stephen Whetstone.
Hi everyone, Steve Whetstone from Ohio, lawyer, sober drunk. He's excited, I'm nervous.
He's nervous. I love having nervous guests on the podcast. So, well, let's dig in a little bit. So you have, one of the reasons that obviously I wanted to have you on, we got to know each other in Roofers in Recovery, right? I am always interested in anybody that's went down the same type of journey path, that I have, but especially when they come out on the other side successful, they help people, and you've been in this world for a while, right? Like you've been clean for a hot second, and you still go to meetings, you still do the deal, you still help folks, right? And I think that's what's important, and I think that that's what people need to know about, and that's what they need to hear about. So tell everybody kind of what you do now, and then we'll kind of dig into like past and how you got to where you are.
Absolutely. Well, everything good in my life today is because I got sober and stayed sober. I'm a lawyer in the whole roofing industry here. Got into it about 12 years ago because a buddy of mine in recovery worked for a roofing company. He said, Steve, come over here, check out what they're doing. And so I went to a couple adjustments as a salesman in training.
Yeah.
And, same storm, same neighborhood, watched an Allstate adjustment and then a USAA adjustment.
The
Allstate
those are different.
Exactly. The Allstate guy's there for like 3 hours, not finding nothing, not seeing nothing, doesn't pay the claim. The USAA independent adjuster is there for 30 minutes, writes a check, boom, done. Same exact damage, and from that point on, I was pretty well hooked. So with his company, I kind of learned the roofing industry from the inside out. Then I started handling more and more claims on a contingency, built my own practice up, just ran with it, got Hague certified, windstorm, umpire, all that stuff for marketing purposes, really. Just ran with it, trademarked the roof lawyer. It's cheesy as heck, but we did it.
Yeah.
And again, it's all because I'm sober. It was a buddy of mine in recovery, and he hooked me up with other roofing company owners that were in recovery, and I've just ran with it and been tremendously blessed thanks to this.
And so you do all first-party stuff now, right? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't chase any ambulances or fucking do anything else. Okay, good. So you're how old now?
41.
Okay, and you got sober when?
A couple months after my 21st birthday.
That shit's crazy to me. So like that's why I want to hear that story, because like anytime somebody gets, I fucking hate when the loudspeaker goes when I'm doing these. God, it drives me fucking crazy. I'm always very interested in people that got sober young, because to me that's always like I don't get it, right? Because like you had to go through some shit in a short amount of time to really buy into I need to be a different human, right?
Absolutely.
So like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the professional stuff, that makes me nervous talking about that, because I feel like I'm on stage and performing.
Yeah.
This is the real stuff.
Yeah.
By the time I was 12, I was a daily drinker.
12
every single day. if I wasn't doing it, I was thinking about how I was going to get it.
Where were you getting it?
So we had a pizza delivery service in town that would deliver booze along with food. And it was always teenage, high schoolers.
So they don't give a fuck.
Exactly. So I would order like 2 gyros and 4 cases of Busch Light, that type of thing. And
on the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because the guy who, well, I won't go into that, I'm sorry. But if we didn't have booze or drugs, I would huff gasoline, I would huff rubber cement.
Wow, okay.
And
you were the fucking real deal.
Unfortunately, and I got in a ton of trouble, man. As a juvenile, I had what would be 10 felonies if I were an adult. And I spent about as much time suspended or expelled from school as I did in it. Hurt a lot of people, man. Boot camps, probation, driver's license taken away. I did 4 months in juvie my senior year in high school, and that was probably the biggest consequence. Not that I had to do juvie, but my grandma, who I was super close with, she got really sick, and they let me do a deathbed visit. And so we went, and she didn't pass. We got an hour extension, and my mom, whose mother it was lying on her deathbed, had to bring me back to kiddie jail. And we got the call that she had passed away right when we were pulling back in kiddie jail. And, I was all upset and resentful at the judge that put me in there, who I love today, who, recommended that I become an attorney and, was helped
really?
tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I want to hear that.
I didn't think for a minute, Eric, that my mom could not be with her own mom when she passed away because her sick, sad, and sorry son was going back to kiddie jail. It was all about me.
Right.
Like, I was not hurting anybody but me.
Right.
So I did that and got out of there, went to college briefly, screwed up, got in a whole bunch of
How old were you when you realized that?
That one was too many and 1,000 was never
No,
enough?
just the thing about your mom. Like, you know what I mean? Where you had that realization.
That's a great question. When I was 21 years old working a 4-step, I didn't think about it until I got sober. It was always, I'm not hurting anybody but me, man. The ultimate alcoholic life.
So it was doing the work. You figured it out.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to try.
No, 100%, man. And it just went downhill from there. My last drunk, I was trying to do the controlled drinking thing, and that meant just me, a 30-pack of Busch Light, watch TV, don't leave the house, right? Because I can't get in trouble if I don't leave the house. Well, I come out of a blackout. I'm yelling at the police, telling them they can do the blank sobriety test because they're too hard for me, and that I wouldn't read or sign anything because I could only read and speak Arabic. So this was right after 9/11. I got a DUI and a resisting arrest that night. And then I'm in jail. Nobody would answer the phone. Nobody would take my collect call. Well, it turns out I was just too drunk to do the 1-800-CALL-ATT thing, right? I thought my family had abandoned me, right? Once I figured it out, the first family member came, picked me up. I put bond on, or bail on credit card, went to sleep, woke up, never going to do it again, man.
Yeah, of course.
Swore it off for good. But I was so terrified of the consequences and so ashamed of what I'd done the night before. I didn't know how to deal or cope. So I took some Xanax. Xanax leads to alcohol, of course. My last drunk, I drink myself to death. I aspirated in my own vomit. I was in ICU for 2 weeks, and from there I went to rehab, and I haven't had a drink or drug since. And, it's all because I keep coming back to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. God, I just lost my fucking train of thought because I was so focused on the mom story. How long were you in juvie?
4 months the second time.
God, what was that like?
Not being able to do what you want to, mainly not being able to see family, Christmas and New Year's. 4 months isn't a long time.
Did it make you more hardened, or did it, you know what I mean? Or did it make you realize what consequences were?
It probably saved my life for the short term.
Okay.
I tried to get my stuff together, but the first or second night out, I was drinking and drugging again. But the hardest part was, again, losing my grandma in there. And I was in there Y2K. You remember the Y2K thing? So when the ball's dropping, everybody's celebrating. I'm on the floor praying that the world didn't end when I was in kiddie jail. That's how I remember Y2K.
That's funny. I would have been wishing that everything went down so that all the records got lost, and then they couldn't charge you again for the same fucking...
absolutely. But my dad, he's a pharmacist. Worked really hard to be able to help put me in rehab from hospital, and I was in there like 120 days, and they washed my brain. It needed cleaning, dude. It needed cleaning, and they introduced me to the program, and it just stuck.
And it stuck.
And from there on out, life's been good, and we make wise decisions with the help of people like you.
Yeah.
Like, where else do we get that free network? Like, any problem I have, I know somebody who's a friend in recovery. I can call up and have that mentorship. Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, and that's it. So I think somebody, the one guy this morning in the meeting that was super loud and awesome, but like he had a point that like I've said on this show like numerous times, right, is we all pay 30, 40, 50,000 for some of these masterminds, right? And I've went to them and I've sat in the room and they start doing an exercise, and I'll sit there and I'll raise my hand and I'll be like, that's a 4-step. And then they start doing something else and I'm like, that's an 8-step. Like, y'all are fucking charging a lot of money for the shit that we get for free.
Absolutely.
Right? But it's like, and again, that's everything that anybody does, right? It's like we all read a book and then we repackage it so somebody can hear it the right way and we can sell it, right? Like that's fine. But it is amazing the gift that we've all been given because of this program that we were given for free from somebody else that went through the same shit that we went through, and that they knew that the only way that they got to keep it was if they gave it away.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's the language of the heart, man. It's one alcoholic talking to another, trying to help without regard for reward or favor.
Right. And it's an amazing thing that I think that people don't understand, right? What it is that we actually do. They think that guys like us that are sober, clean, and trying to help other people, that we're actually trying to stand on a fucking pulpit and convert like we're fucking Jehovah's Witnesses or, whatever, right? And like, it couldn't be further from the truth, right? And especially like when we show up to an event like this as Roofers in Recovery, people will get scared and like run away from the booth because they think that we're trying to convert them. Am I wrong?
Absolutely.
Right? And it's like, no, man, like, I don't give a fuck what you do.
You do you, enjoy it, man. If you can do it and not hurt people, God bless you. Have fun, man.
We're all here for the people that can't do it anymore and they don't know where the fuck to go and they need help. And anybody that commits part of their life to that, to me, is a fucking hero. I don't give a fuck, right? Who you are, what you do. But if you're willing to spend any significant part of your life to better other humans, that's why we're here.
Absolutely.
I think that's why we were put here. Right, we got to go make money because we can't do those things unless we got the resources and the funding to be able to do it, right?
Absolutely.
But like, what are we doing on a continuous basis to help people? Here's my assumption. It's why you got into lawyering. Yes?
Yeah.
What's the story behind the judge pushing you to do that? That sounds interesting.
So to even get into law school, we have to have letters of recommendation and background checks. And that's a long story, how I even got licensed to practice, because it
sounds like you weren't a great student to begin with.
No, and I had a horrible record. But when I went back to school, I never got anything less than an A sober. I'm the only person.
Amazing how that works.
It's crazy. And in law school, I'm the only person that's ever been a full-time student and graduated with a perfect 4.0 from that law school.
Oh, wow.
So I brought a lot of shame on my family, and the one thing I was able to give back was to be the commencement speaker at law school. And, my speech was like 30 seconds. It was short. It got a standing ovation because it was short.
Do you remember the speech?
And I gave credit.
30 seconds. Let's go. I want to hear it. I want to go.
It was all about thank you to family, friends, and the support group, and letting everybody know that, with God in one hand and some kind of program in the other, I can go anywhere.
Yeah.
We can do anything.
Yeah.
And that's what
And not about you.
It's about giving back. Thank you.
Exactly.
I'm not self-made. I'm not one of those guys that's self-made.
Right.
You guys helped make me.
Yeah.
My family helped make me. I've just been blessed that way, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
But back to the judge, she wrote the letter for me to get into the law school. She wrote a letter to the character and fitness program that decides whether people are going to have the requisite character and fitness to practice law.
So what made you ask her? That had to be a weird conversation with yourself.
No, she's an amazing person. She had a good heart. She had my best interest at heart when she removed me from the situation I was in where I was just run amok. And she probably saved my life because she put me away for 4 months. But yeah, Judge C, just talked to her last night. And amazing lady, but the judge that put me away was also the judge that helped me become an attorney. And we had to have formal hearings in front of the Ohio Supreme Court to determine whether I had the character and fitness to do this. And, her letters and law school professors and my sponsor came in. It was amazing, but I had to jump through a lot of extra hoops, and the Supreme Court had to issue a separate written decision for whether I could practice the law in the state of Ohio.
Really?
I was about 10, 11 years sober when I went through that process, but a lot of extra hoops to jump through. But
yeah, that's humbling, right? Like not similar story, but I actually just last year, I think it was last year or the year before, I wrote a letter to my judge that sentenced me, because I found out later after I went to treatment. So I went to treatment before I got sentenced, right? And the only reason I did was to try and get, lesser sentence, right? But I went to treatment, and treatment saved my life 100%. And then I got sentenced, and he gave me the minimum, which was 90 days in jail, and then my 15-year revocation of my driver's license, right? So I've been sober almost 15 years, and I still don't have a driver's license, right? I still blow in a fucking brr, which is also very humbling. But I found out later that judge was actually in AA. And I didn't know that at the time. Found out that's why he was, quote unquote, he was easy on me, but he was hard on me because I was eligible for house arrest, right? But when you get sentenced in district court, if you get approved for house arrest, the house arrest people can't just let you go. If it was a misdemeanor and it was in county court, they just let you fucking go home. They'll take you home and everything's good. When you're in district court, the judge has to fucking approve it. So I was sitting there every day looking at my CO in the mod, and I'm like, they call my fucking number yet? They call my name? And they just look at me and be like, no. And that fucker made me sit for a while before he actually let me out, right? I find out later it's because he was trying to teach me a lesson. He was, in the program, whatever. But he believed me when I came back from treatment, I want to do better, I want to do different. So I find out this information later, and I end up writing a letter to him, and I'm like, I don't know how to get to a fucking judge, right? There's a reason, that they're not public. You know what I mean? They want to keep people like me away from fucking judges. And I sent it to my, current attorneys, and I was like, can you find Judge Hartigan and get him this letter? I don't expect him to reply, which he never did, but, I don't expect him to reply, but I wrote this, heartfelt, thank you. That was the worst day of my life, but turned out to be the best day of my life. Thank you for being one of those judges that does believe that there is redemption in people, because there's so many people that are in the court that don't, and they just think that anybody that makes a mistake is a fucking half-wit and an idiot, and they're destined for failure, right? But there are also people out there in the system that do believe that if people are given a second chance, that they can make a change, in their life. And I was able to get that to him. And again, that's the humbling part of it, is you put that out into the world and you have no idea how it was received, right? I can assume that it was received well, right? I would hope. But being able to do that, though, was such a life-changing experience, right? To have gone through the program as long as we have, and done all of those things that we've done, and do the work, and then be able to literally say thank you to somebody that sent me to fucking jail, right? And that's what, people that are listening and watching, if you're going through something like this, if you're going through the hardest part of your life right now, right? The worst thing that ever fucking happened to you can absolutely be the best thing that ever happened to you, if you let it.
Absolutely.
If you let it. But you have to make a choice on if it's going to be the worst thing or if it's going to be the best thing. It's totally fucking up to you. It's not up to anybody else. It's up to you if you decide you want to make the choice and make the decision to be better and do something about it and put in the work like you have.
Yeah. And it's hard to understand how hitting bottom can be the best moment in your life, but people who have lived it totally understand.
Totally get it.
A lot of nods there. Absolutely.
Yeah, like, and that's one of the hardest things in the world to have to be a part of.
And, you know, when you got sober, you've been sober for a while, I think there was probably a pretty significant stigma about alcoholism and addiction. And
it's almost cool now to be sober.
Yes, I think that's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks to the opioid crisis, and you know, people are worried about what gender they are when they're 5 or 6 years old now. So we can wear it as a badge of honor today.
Yeah.
I think everybody loves a comeback story.
Isn't that crazy though? That's a really good point that you bring up though. Like, it's so insane that, like, because when this program that we're a part of was started, right, like, we were the fucking outcasts and the degenerates and the most awful people in the world. Nobody believed in, you know, that people can be different and people can change. And literally today, like, guys like us are half-ass celebrated, which is crazy.
And it's because you were a badass, and here's why. If you go through a breakup, if you lose a family member, a friend, you can't go get drunk for a week to get over it. You have to process every single emotion and deal with it using some kind of higher power. We have to be stronger than normal people. So I'll say it, I'm a badass. Eric's a badass. It's a badge of honor today.
I remember being in treatment, and they were like, okay, so here's what's going to happen. You're not going to drink or use. And I was like, okay. And they're like, and now you have to have feelings. And I was like, fuck that. I don't want anything to do with feelings. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be I don't want any of that. And that is the thing that you learn how to do, right? Is how you deal with emotions, right? Because, like, we have to learn how to, bad shit's still going to happen to us, right? My grandpa died in sobriety. And my grandpa was my dad, like, closest person. He was my person. I didn't have anybody like him in my life that I could talk to other than him. Still don't today. And I lost my person, but because of what we've been taught. Somebody asked me this the other day. They're like, what was that like? Did you think about drinking, whatever? And I was like, you know what? I'm like, honestly, like, it didn't cross my mind. Now I know that it crossed everybody else's mind that was around me in my life, like, oh fuck, like, this could be what tips him over, right? And it didn't even cross my mind into a fact of like, hey, don't drink because it'll ruin your grandpa's leg, you know, whatever. Like, not even that. It was just like, this isn't what I do anymore. And when you start to identify that you're this new person, that's when, like, that life change really happens. And then that's something that I struggle with too. Let me ask you this question, because like you hang out with like great people, and you know what I mean, like people that are on the rise and all that kind of stuff. I get a lot of shit from like certain high level people because I still will introduce myself, hey, I'm Eric, I'm an alcoholic, right? Do you get people giving you shit like, dude, that's not fucking you anymore. You're this new version of yourself. Stop fucking living in the past.
Only from my sponsor a few years ago when I was talking about Earth people and how they behave. He's like, you are an Earth person now.
What the fuck is an Earth person?
It's like almost like a normie. You are now just a
I've never heard that term
of humanity. You know, this is what you got sober and work the steps for.
Right.
You need to interact with everyone who's sober, and that's you now. But no, nobody really gives me flack about wearing my alcoholism on my sleeve.
I've got a coach that does, and I love him to death. And I don't agree with him, but it makes me think, right? Because it goes with the whole analogy of like, look through the windshield, not the rearview mirror, right? And what is our saying? It's like, don't shut the door on the past, but don't regret. What is it? You probably know it better than I do. Oh, you know what I'm talking about, though, right? And there's that saying. And there's just an interesting kind of dichotomy to that, right? Because like we can't forget who we were, because I don't ever want to go back to it, right? At the same time. Does that make sense?
It does. And, you know, I've lost a lot of people sober, and I've lost a lot of people before I got sober.
Yeah.
Very, very painful and miserable, and lots of tears before I got sober. And then after sobriety, all the deaths have been good deaths, because my last interaction with that individual
there you go.
Was positive. It was, I love you.
Yeah.
I've had few uncles died that the last thing they said to me was, "I love you and I'm proud of you." And I got that only because I'm sober.
That's
now.
pretty cool.
So deaths have been good deaths.
That's pretty
even
good.
if they're close people.
Yeah. I love that. Hey, so the way that we always kind of wrap these up at the end is I always give the floor back to the guest on something that maybe you had an idea of something that you wanted to make sure that we talked about and I forgot to bring it up, or we started digging into something that maybe I didn't finish, and you wanted to go a little bit deeper. But I always want to give the guest an opportunity to land the plane on anything that was kind of on their mind, on their heart, to make sure that the audience takes from it.
Gotcha. Just anything's possible. Again, everything good in my life is because I got sober and stayed sober. I'm pretty boring that way. In law school, the media people interviewed me to potentially do a story about, the comeback kid, that type of thing. And he didn't write the story because I just said, I suit up, I show up, I do the footwork.
Yeah.
Okay. Or,
doing the work's boring.
Yeah. Well, how are you a straight A suit? I suit up, I show up.
Yeah.
Footwork and everything good in my life because I got sober and stayed sober.
Yeah.
So it's pretty boring. I'm glad you asked me to do this again. I was super nervous about it. Just because
Nothing to be nervous about. See? It's just a conversation.
Cameras, microphones, stuff on your head.
Just got to record it. That's all. It's just a fun conversation. Stephen, I appreciate the fuck out of you being here. Not only taking the time, but, I only say this to a handful of guests. I genuinely appreciate our friendship. I genuinely appreciate you being my friend. I know I'm the worst at picking up the phone and calling people, but I know just from our conversations that I can pick up the phone and call you anytime. And I know that anybody listening right now that's going through anything could literally pick up the phone and call you at any time and that you would be there to help them. And those are the kind of people that I want to make sure that I'm always surrounding myself with. And so I want to make sure that you're always in my circle, right? And I appreciate that.
Same, man, and I appreciate you and the effort and energy that you put into the Tuesday night Roofers in Recovery meetings with always coming up with topics, running things smooth. That makes my week.
Dude, it wouldn't be a meeting without you. So I appreciate you showing up with your cigar every week.
Thank you, sir.
Stephen, thanks for being here. Hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode. Remember, we don't have any fucking sponsors. So Zyn, for all your nicotine needs. We're trying to get Zyn to fucking sponsor the show. They never will, but I'm going to keep trying. It's delicious and it's good for you. Also, don't have any sponsors. I pay for everything. So Cult Culture Movement. If you're looking for a group to up level with, do some personal growth and development, we do group coaching calls twice a month. They're amazing. We have an amazing group of men in that. We'd love to see you there if that's something you're interested in. Please reach out, shoot me a DM. Maybe you can get invited to our next retreat. We're going in April to, this will air way after that, but we're going to Grand Cayman on an underwater mastermind trip, which is going to be amazing. And we're going to make that an annual or biannual trip. So if that's something that's interesting to you, please reach out, be part of the group, be part of the movement, be part of the change. And remember, everybody, to be authentic or get the fuck out.
You can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Yeah. Swipes.